All right, so this morning headed to the bank. Did you guys know I work at a bank? Yeah, a little bit, not much, just kind of part-time thing. As I have time, I go. So doing that this morning, and then later today, I'm headed to where am I going? College, Mideast. The Buffalo campus. So I'm headed over to Buffalo. I'm gonna teach a class today, so that should be fun. All right, guys, I'm gonna run in here, get some work done for a couple hours. Not very long, but you can't go with me. I work in a security area down there, and they're not gonna let this camera in there, so. I'll be back in a couple hours. We'll head over to Mideast shortly.
3 hours later.
Well, that's enough of that. Let's go have some fun. Buffalo, Ohio. I'm going to speak at a class at Mideast. It's a graphic design and arts class. So we're talking about photography today, obviously. I guess that's obvious. I'm gonna grab some lunch first. Gotta eat. All right, lunch has been had. Time to head over to the campus, get stuff inside, start talking. All right, I'm here. It's gorgeous out here. Look at this. What an awesome day. Kind of hate to be in a classroom all day.
2 hours later.
All right, so I just wrapped a talk at Mideast over here at Buffalo. Good time, good class, a lot of good questions, a lot of interest. That's kind of cool. It's always nice to talk to people, kids who are getting ready to head out and have an interest in starting their own thing or doing something artistic. It's a challenging way to go, but it's really rewarding. And so to talk to kids about that and answer questions is a good time. Glad I got to do it. Now headed back to Zanesville, back to work. Before I drive 45 minutes home, I gotta get something to drink. It's too hot. I shouldn't have worn this sweater. It's a bad decision. It was cold today though. I thought it'd be cold in the classroom. It was super hot.
1 hour later.
All right guys, I just got back from speaking over at Mideast over at the Buffalo campus. Got me thinking. I've been doing this, had been doing some posts and entries on Instagram under the hashtag of OP Daily. It was kind of a precursor, I guess, to a vlog. I was just doing some discussion with some images about, the business, taking photography. It started a little bit about sort of my background and history and how I got to where I am now. And I got to talk about that today. And, whereas I've been posting sort of chunks and little bits here and there with the Instagram posts, I got to talk about it all at once. And it got me thinking a little bit. And I think I'm going to do a lot more of that with the vlog. At some point, we'll get into maybe some technique and stuff, but I think the story behind what goes on at the studio, obviously you see the work on Instagram and Facebook and know what we do, but finding out how and why we do what we do might be kind of interesting to you. But today we got to talk a little bit about not only just photography in general, but a lot about business. And I'd run a Twitter poll a while ago, just wondering with our Twitter followers, those who were getting ready to graduate or going to college, whether or not they thought whether or not they thought they were going to go on to work for themselves or someone else. And about a third of the people said that they wanted to work for themselves. And I asked the class today the same thing, and got about the same response. So, and this class was a graphic arts class, so it was sort of the creative side of the spectrum. So a number of people that wanted to be photographers, a couple who wanted to be graphic designers, one who wanted to be an animator, another who wanted to own a studio and rent space to artists. And as we got talking, and I was kind of walking them through what my days are like and what it's been like to get to this point, I realized, man, it is a ton of work. So I was sort of like counting the hours in my head as I was talking to them. I probably put 68 hours a week into this business. Last night I was up until 2 in the morning. That's becoming the norm. That's several nights in a row that's happened. And I see that happening more, especially as the vlog continues, because that's adding some work. Obviously I don't have extra time necessarily during the day, during the week to make that happen. So all the sports and events that we shoot, the proms, obviously this week I shot 3 of them, and it took me 2 or 3 days to get those out. By the time you sort through them and process them, and I don't do a whole lot of editing to them, but it still takes time to get them posted. And then all the stuff that goes in to marketing and branding and meetings and advertising. You run a Facebook ad and it takes hours to develop the content for it, and then you got to schedule it and follow up on it, and then run variations. Running a business, especially in this day and age, is easy in terms of the tools that we have to do it. Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, these social networks can make it very easy. I think it was, if you don't know who Gary Vaynerchuk is, you need to go find out, but he talks about how marketers, their sole purpose in life is to ruin everything. And, as a business, that needs to reach people, that's true. Like businesses for ruining Facebook or working on ruining Instagram. When you see the sponsored posts junking up your feeds. Hopefully ours are a little more native and you don't hate seeing them, but the last few days we've been posting at least a dozen times a day on Instagram, which breaks all the protocol. Most people post once at the most, but we post a lot more than that as a business. But all that content has to be created, and it's a ton of work. And so I guess the whole point of this is kind of where I landed in the class today is, if you got to do something you enjoy as best as possible. You definitely have got to pay dues. I did. Especially if you're going to be building a business, you've got to find something that you can do in the interim to make some money while you're building that business. And for me, that was being in the banking world, and still is to a certain extent. It helps fill in the gaps here and there. Like I was there for a couple hours this morning when I had some time. And obviously I'm there a lot less right now because the photo world is hopping. But in the winters and in the late falls, when things begin to slow down, it's nice to have something to go do to make some money when people aren't wanting photos to be taken. So you got to put in a ton of work on the business side of it. You got to put in a ton of work on the actual art of, in my case, photography or whatever it is that you're wanting to do or plan on doing. And it's just, so you got to have something to support that. So you got all the work, and then the business side of it, and then in a lot of cases, at least early on, something else to support it. So I just, I think there are a lot of people out there looking at the world, getting ready to graduate and move on, planning on doing something on their own, and not that they can't. I just know what you're getting yourself into. I was fortunate. I had a father who owned his own business, and so I had some idea of what I was getting myself into when I started. But it's a different world now. It requires different things than obviously what he was doing in terms of marketing and customer acquisition and retention. The cost of entry into this world, into the marketing world that we live in, to get people's attention, is creating content, and that takes time. It takes hours to create photos. It takes hours and hours and hours and days to create videos. Just be prepared. You got to really want it, and you got to be willing to put in long hours and a lot of work. for a long time before you see success. I mean, I've been at the photo thing now for a decade, but probably the first 5-6 years of that is really just honing a craft, not really seeing any sort of success or traction in the world. In fact, 3 or 4 years ago, I put up all my gear for sale. I was over it. It just wasn't going anywhere. I was having trouble with some clients. The hiccups in the road weren't worth it. And thankfully, over a period of a couple months, decided that wasn't exactly what I wanted to do, that I didn't want to give it up. And that was the point where I really buckled down and really started putting in long hours, doing a ton of stuff for free. That's when I started really in earnest shooting proms and football games and a few basketball games here and there. Last couple of years, we've done some softball games. Haven't had a whole lot of time for that this year, so softball players, sorry about that. But it's just never ending. And that's great, and you gotta love it. If you don't love that, and if the stress of it doesn't feed you, I got asked today, do I like my life? Is it stressful? Yeah, it's stressful, but in a good way. I really enjoy what I do, so it's not a bad stress. I feed off of it. I see things as obstacles to overcome, challenges to be met. When I fail, it's not life ending. It's okay, that didn't work, and what did I learn from it, and how can I move the needle forward? I mean, we did that sale that you may have seen a few weeks ago. Did not work at all. Learned something important from it, and we're going to do things different in the future. One being, you're not going to see sales. You're just not going to do that. Anyway, all that, a lot of words, just to say that at the end of the day, there's no shame in not doing that. I mean, you may love photography, you may love video, you may love animation, or content creation, or graphic design, or music, or anything. You may love the actual art side of it, and you may hate the business side of it. Don't work for yourself. Don't be in business. Find a business partner if you want to own the own business. Do the creative side of it, and have somebody else who can run the business and do the marketing and handle the finances and the accounting, the taxes, the payroll if you have employees, all that nonsense. Or just go work for somebody. If you can stomach the fact that you don't have the say in the business and it's not your business, and you just love doing the creation, whatever that is, then just go get a job doing that. Have a 9 to 5, go home, play with your kids. Have a more normal, if there's such thing, life, or typical. Because being a business owner is not. It's never ending. It doesn't stop. The phone doesn't stop ringing. The texts don't stop. You got to work to carve out time for family and things that you might enjoy. But the thing is, I enjoy that. Like, I enjoy the business, I enjoy the photography, so that's worth it to me, to try and hack that and balance it and stay up till 2 a.m. at nights to make that work. So if you're getting ready to set out, I'd say find something you love, get ready to pay some dues. If you want to be out on your own, be willing to work for it. It's a ton of work. It's going to take a long time to see some real success. I'm still not there. I'm not close to where I want to be or need to be. We've seen some real good success the last 3 or 4 years, but we're still working at it. Still a number of markets that we want to crack and get into. We definitely want to grow. Hopefully at some point we'll be hiring employees. So long way to go for us. And so the vlog is going to be documentation of that process. Sort of the day-to-day goings on. Some days are going to be real dull and we won't have a vlog, and some days will be interesting. Some days will be some of this, where I just need to get some things off my chest and hopefully thoughts out of my head, and hopefully you think it's interesting. So, all right, that's it. I'm going to get out of here, go home, play with the kids for a few hours before I have to get back to work later tonight. I got a dance video I got to put together. That's going to be a while. That's going to take a while. Video's a ton of work. Respect for the people who shoot video and edit video. Shooting and editing photos is tough and time consuming, but nothing like video. So for all you videographers out there, good on you. Later.